Shalom. Corably Anthony, Baruch Abale Sarid. Hello, they call me Anthony. Welcome to Sarid. Thank you so much for joining us here for our weekly Torah teaching on the coming of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. At this time, I always like to give all praise, honor, and esteem to Yahuwah Elohim for the great wisdom and insight he has given us in his word to share with you concerning the coming of Adonai Yahushua HaMashiach. We are so thankful for him. To the Kodashim out there, I trust that you are still counting the Omer, as this now is the 4th week of counting the Omer. If you are joining us here for the first time, Baruch Haba. Welcome. There are orientation videos, Orientation 1 and Orientation 2, that will get you up to speed as to how we look at Scripture here. And there are many things in all of the videos that Yahuwah wants his people to know. Now that we are assembled, Mosheh has died. And so let's join the believers as they reminisce here now. Atimakanim, if you're ready, it's Bonaki. Let's go. Devarim chapter 34. We'll begin the adut in verse 7 this week, followed by the witness in 1st Yochanan. We'll be looking at chapter 2, verse 28. Mosheh was 120 years old when he died. And now, little children, abide in him. Mosheh has been around a long time, and Yochanan is encouraging the believers to abide in him. This is Yahushua. Abide in him as you did Mosheh. Mosheh means drawn, and the one drawn in Yochanan for the survey line is him. This is Yahushua, the one Mosheh spoke of. Aleph Tah, in the flesh. Mosheh was 120 years old when he died. During the time of Yochanan, he says, and now, little children, abide in him. The understanding of the 120, the Hebrew word for 20 is Esherim. It is from the word Esher, H6235, meaning 10. It in turn is from still another root, H6237, used in the form of giving and taking the tenth part of something, as the 10th. From that, a primitive root, Asher, H6238, means to become rich or wealthy. To enrich oneself means to become rich and gain riches. Attached to the 100, this 10th is now multiplied. This is the richness of Mosheh's life, 120. The years, H8141, Shanae, is the division of time indicating his age. It is the verb used from this, H8138, Shana, meaning to repeat and do again, to change or alter, to disguise oneself. This is why Yochanan now says, little children, abide in him. Abide in this change or alteration from Mosheh to Yahushua as your leader. Abide in him. Keep the things Mosheh taught. Okay? But recognize the person of Yahushua. This too is him in the verse. Recognize the spiritual change in leadership from the story. This is the richness or best part of Mosheh now being passed on when he died. This knowledge is being passed on by Yochanan to those who he was teaching concerning the times of Mosheh and how these exact words in the Torah had pointed to the first coming of the Nazir Yahushua. And it has the same meaning another way at this present time. The first coming of Yahushua was to set up the reign in the high places where Yahuwah Elohim dwells. He set that up in the Shemaim. He has to come a second time to set it up here on the earth. Because although it started out one way, Satan then deceived the whole world. This has been a big problem for a long time. All of this is in the light of the prophetic teachings of Mosheh. He says to them, little children, so these are his taught ones, and they are seen now in his writings, gleaning from the writings of Mosheh's final days. Yochanan was giving them his unique insight. In this letter, he wrote about his knowledge of Yahushua. This is what we are now using to line up with what was written by Mosheh. We're using it to verify his witness and thus fulfill the Adut. Yochanan came for the Adut. This is what separated his account from the others, and the reason Yahushua wished to leave him behind to usher in his final coming. We know this to be written, called Hazon, the vision, revealed, the revelation. Because Yahuwah has spoken in Yeshayahu, saying in chapter 28, and the whole chapter is an orderly account of special events that are to occur in history. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue he will speak to this people. And the tongue here for the Adut is English. It goes on to read, to whom he said, this is the rest with which you may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing. Yet they were not here. So the Jews are not going to hear this, and neither is any other religion out there using the word of Yahuwah, because they're looking at the whole thing all wrong. They're not going to hear this. That is to say, they're not going to Shema, meaning hear, listen, and obey. They're not going to do all of that. Most people in today's dumbed down religion just want a head knowledge. They don't intend to do anything with this to institute any type of righteousness. So this really means nothing to them. So little children, heed these words as though they were from Yahuwah, because all of this is his word, testifying for itself. This is how we find out what really went on in the good news of the flesh, the Basura, in order to give insight to still more to come. Because we know from most of this witness, some people have lied about a lot concerning Yahushua, a whole lot. They have made a covenant with death, and the cost was countless of lost souls and a continued stream of misinformation, which leads to even more deceived and lost souls that did not make it to the everlasting promised land where Yahuwah dwells, regardless of what was said at the grave sites. Because if they did not speak according to these words, it was because no light was in them. Because Yeshayahu also records in the following verses of that prophecy in 17, he says, also, I will make justice the measuring line, and righteousness the plummet. The hail will sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters will overflow the hiding places. Measuring lines and plummets are tools used by a surveyor. These are the survey lines being used to uncover the refuge of lies by those who have made a covenant with death about this cornerstone. Judgment is overflowing their hiding places. His eyes were not dim, that when he appears. His eyes, the iron is used here, H5869, is the physical eyes showing mental qualities. They were not dim, they were not weak, restrained, faint, or darkened in any way, according to the definition for that word, chaha, H3543. Thus Yochanan says that when he appears. This is Yahushua, the one drawn down in Yochanan, seen as he. His appearance is not something that will be diminished in any way. The likeness of both Mosheh and Yahushua is viewed in the survey lines as pronouns, his and he. This is something being passed on from Mosheh to Yahushua. Now the footnote in NU text reads if. Seems the NU has a little problem with the words here. In the Texas Receptus, the word for when is used, G3752. This is from the original writings that were in the Abrit. The NU evidently still not understanding the vision, even at this late stage in the game. Seems they got tired of abiding in him, so they stopped waiting and replaced that word with G1437, if. So it reads, if he appears. And this is why Yahuwah Elohim set up a specific way to discern the vision. Those who follow the guidelines precept upon precept and line upon line know the word clearly says in Devarim, his eyes were not dim. The word for ayin is used in the definition of mental and spiritual faculties as a quality. In other words, he is going to appear, and it will not be dim, not weak, restrained, faint, or darkened in any way, according to that definition. Here they come along saying, if he appears. This is the way they read it. And to them I say, this is not a matter of if, but when. And when he does, a lot of Christians are going down for witness tampering and spiritual racketeering. He's going to see to that. The everlasting fire is reserved for this type of crime with no time off for good behavior. So whatever good works done in the flesh is going to be burned up too. It's just a crime they're committing. Lead you astray. Nor his natural vigor diminished. We may have confidence and not be ashamed before him at his coming. Nor his natural vigor diminished. This word for natural vigor, H3892, is lach. It is freshness and newness. This is seen in Yochanan as something for us who believe in the teaching of Mosheh as it relates to Yahushua. It gives us confidence. This line is for us, those who wait to see him when he appears, and not if, so that we may have confidence and not be ashamed before him at his coming. We have confidence in Mosheh's teaching as it relates to Adonai Yahushua. Yochanan is encouraging the confidence to believe back then, which extends to us as well, when Yahushua is to reappear. It will be with bright freshness, like nothing this world order can compare with, I am sure. Devarim chapter 34:8 will line up with 1 Yochanan chapter 2. We'll be looking at verse 29. And Bnei Yisrael wept for Mosheh in the plains of Moab 30 days. If you know that he was righteous. If you knew Mosheh at all, you knew 30 days was not long enough. Just look at everything he came through with them, coming out of Mitzrayim and all. You know that he led them for 40 years in the wilderness after that. 30 days was not enough. And all the trials and wonders done in the wilderness before the 40 years of wandering, if you know all of that, you know 30 days was not long enough. It's a tough act to follow as a leader. He did some extraordinary things. They were righteous. Yahuwah Elohim was definitely with him, and we are still awed just by the stories. They truly are the greatest ever written. We know that. Mosheh took care to carefully follow what Yahuwah had said, even in the face of doubters among his own people. He was righteous. He was righteous in building on the vision. This is according to the top line of survey, the building of Yisrael as a belief. B'nai Yisrael. Their core beliefs is what they wept for, which includes everything they had gone through and established with Mosheh. In addition, and most importantly, the mark of the accusative is here on Mosheh. The Aleph Tau is attached to his name as a symbol of something that is everlasting. The ones drawn in Yochanan to receive this knowledge are you, us, together here for the adult at this point in history, along with the believers during the time of Yochanan, because those believers followed the writing of Mosheh. And so are we. They are fully aware of the writings, and Yochanan is trying to bring together symbolisms as it relates to Yahushua's final time with them. The teachings of everlasting life, because of how Yahuwah Elohim used him to demonstrate the most powerful and renowned writings concerning spiritual deliverance ever recorded. If you know that he was righteous, that's why the mark of the accusative was on him and this verse. In this verse, he was right about everlasting life. In fact, the he down in Yochanan is the Aleph Tau that is attached to Mosheh in the verse. It's beautiful. Yahushua is the Aleph and the Tau. Another prophecy in the written word lines right up for the survey. Foretold in the written account. This is Yahuwah confirming it with a sign and a wonder. The sign is the Aleph Tau, and the wonder is how did it line up so perfectly? Wonder how the word does that so righteously. And everything Mosheh recorded about his ancestors, which is the meaning of Moab, is right. It's right. Okay, it happened to be the name of the actual place all of this was going down. Okay. Specifically, it was on the desert plains. The word plains in Hebrew is called Arabah. Arabah. It describes the pledges taken and shared among the people as they fellowshipped among themselves during the evening, and the people continued in this way, reminiscing about everything that great leader had spoken and done for Israel. It's what they were talking about. And like the people during those times, we, like them, have to go on in belief of what Mosheh and Yahushua has established according to the word of Yahuwah to witness during dark times, which lay ahead. So the days of weeping and mourning for Mosheh ended. You know that everyone who practices righteousness is born of him. So the days of weeping and mourning for Mosheh ended. So this is it, the finality of it all. This verse is carefully placed here as a time of reflection. And so we will end here to reflect on all that Mosheh was drawn of Yahuwah Elohim to do, in establishing without a doubt his will for all of mankind throughout all of history. And this was never about a select few. This was for everyone who believed in Yahuwah Elohim and followed the teachings of Mosheh. They all pointed to Yahushua. As it reads, you know that everyone. This is knowledge. That everyone who knows and practices righteousness is born of him. Practicing the things Mosheh taught in righteousness is the new birth. Disassembling from the established world order of religion and reassembling, whether it be 2 or 3, to do his will. We know the will of Yahuwah is not established on the world stage in righteousness on this earth now, any more than it was done during the days of Noah. This is the righteousness that Yahushua is after, the practicing of the righteousness, religion, for lack of a better word, to describe global worship in general. Religion is a practice. The dedication is in the heart and the mind, where the concept is planted. There's also a problem found in the verse as it reads, so the days of weeping and mourning for Mosheh ended. We have to consider this thoroughly for our time, because these are those days. We already saw the vision of where Yisrael was headed in the previous video. This is also saying spiritually, no one is weeping and mourning for what Mosheh really taught. Those days are ended. They were ended during the time of Yochanan, and they are ended here for the time of the Adut. The message then and now is this: you know that everyone who practices righteousness is born of him. This word for righteousness is indicating a style of worship acceptable to Yahuwah Elohim. G1343, Dekeosuna, is a feminine noun. So this is for everyone. It is used in a broad sense. And it reads, the state of him who is as he ought to be in righteousness. The condition acceptable to Yahuwah Elohim. This is in the definition. These conditions are found in the writings of Mosheh. No one is weeping and mourning for those conditions, because it also says the doctrine concerning the way in which man may attain a state approved by Yahuwah Elohim. The root 1342 means righteousness in observing supernatural laws. This is a worship practice. Yochanan is speaking to an assembly here. No one cares about that. No weeping and mourning about what Mosheh really taught. You don't find that in established religious world order here. And we remember from the last video, Abraham did not cut the birds in two. These are the things lifted up to Yahuwah Elohim. You know that everyone who practices righteousness is born of him. Everything Mosheh taught was righteousness. This is truly a sad time on so many levels because many people are missing this mark. Because the survey line says it ended. I just want to share this in reflection of Mosheh. The Greek word for righteousness is very deceptive, and that if one did not do the research on that word, it is easily misinterpreted as a person's own righteousness, as in the uprightness of their own heart. Mosheh says something in Devarim chapter 9, verse 5 through 7 that clearly eliminates that. This is the type of righteous practice that is spoken of here on the survey line. It reads, "It is not because of your righteousness or the uprightness of your heart that you go in to possess their land, but because of the wickedness of these nations that Yahuwah your Elohim drives them out from before you, and that he may fulfill the word which Yahuwah spoke to your ancestors, to Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Therefore, understand that Yahuwah your Elohim is not giving you this good land to possess because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, do not forget how you provoked Yahuwah your Elohim to wrath in the wilderness, from the day that you departed from the land of Mitzrayim until you came to this place. You have been rebellious against Yahuwah." So again, this is practicing of righteousness. This practicing of righteousness Yochanan is speaking of is relating to worship practices to prevent that type of rebellion against Yahuwah. What you do for your fellow man is the product of your own righteousness. This is good, but does nothing to merit any reward for everlasting life. That's not going to fly in the face of Yahuwah. The worship practices spoken of here are key to the paths that lead to Chayim Olam. The covenant given to Mosheh by Yahuwah is at the heart of all of Scripture. So you don't get to call him what you want. You will address him according to that covenant or be driven out. Also, the appointed times of that covenant show us the way to an acceptable time of meeting Yahuwah. And they are a huge part of the redemptive plan through Adonai Yahushua. It separates those who want to be saved from those who do not. To take the oath of the covenant and fail to keep the appointed times are one and the same as being separated from Israel. And in the big picture, separated from Yahuwah, the one who gives everlasting life. This is how they practice righteousness. Mosheh mirrored the Nazir Yahushua in every way. They are both him in the survey line. As I have mentioned, the practicing of righteousness in religion, this is not done on the world stage. But to those of you practicing in the wilderness, remember this. The Malachim appeared to those attending the sheep in the wilderness before his first coming. So this is given to them now. So remember Mosheh and remember Yahushua. This is the new birth. Amen. This is how we practice righteousness here at Sarid, as should every believer in Adonai Yahushua. And every other good deed flows from that, including love for the things of Yahuwah, as well as love for fellow believers in Adonai Yahushua. Remember, we only get one shot at this, so choose your witness wisely, especially in the light of what is shown here. If you have not already, go ahead and subscribe. Todah Rabbah, thank you so much for watching with us here at Sarid. Shabbat Shalom. Shahayalak Shabuatov. Have a good week.